So welcome to my channel, that's what we call the good life. Today I'm going to be potting on some of my tomato seedlings, and I'm going to be explaining how I do it and why I do it the way I do it, and hopefully giving you some top tips to get you some really good results this year. So first of all, I've got some tomatoes here that I've started off myself from seed. I've just lifted them out of the pot. I've got a few things that I need to do the potting up. I've obviously got a pot. I generally use old pots from last year. I've got some multi-purpose compost. I've got some tools to help me get them out, but if all you've got is something like a butter knife, that would work as well to help you separate them if you needed it. I've got some things to mark with, which are really essential, and I've also got a pencil, so obviously I can mark them. I've got more than one type of tomato, so I need to mark them up, otherwise I won't know what is what. I've also got some trays to then put them onto, and some capillary matting, and if you've not got any of this capillary matting, it's really handy, because it keeps the water, absorbs the water, so it keeps your seeds much better watered. I buy a really big roll of it, and I use it year after year. If you buy a really big roll of it, then you never run out, rather buying small amounts. I know a lot of people have been asking about it, so I will put a link up on the screen and one in the description if you'd like to buy it. We do make a little bit of money out of it because we do have an Amazon shop, so if you want to look at any of the other things on there as well, then you can do. But let's move on to start potting up my tomatoes. Now, I've started off various varieties, but today I'm going to be potting up some red cherry tomatoes, a very popular one that I really enjoy. So mine have come on quite a bit, and they look a little bit long and spindly, but the stems are quite thick, so they're quite healthy looking. I'm going to show you how I'm going to pot these up. If yours are a little bit more spindly, I will give you some tips about that as well. So the first thing to do is lift them out of the pot, which I've already done. I'm then going to separate them very gently. Now, I try to touch the plants as little as I can. You know, it's not going to be perfect. You are going to get a few casualties, but generally most will survive. So I would have been filming this outside, but as you can hear, it's very windy. Now, this is the method if your tomatoes look like mine and they are quite long and thick stemmed with a decent root growth on them. So I'm going to show you this one first, and then I'll talk you through the other one. So first of all, I pop a little bit of compost in the bottom, like so, just so the root has got something to sit on. So, and when we plant these, we're going to sink these down into the pot so that the compost comes up past the stem. The reason we do that is because it will encourage more root growth. You see all these hairs that are on here? If you plant this below the soil, you will get more root growth and you'll get a better plant. And because they are a little bit leggy, you obviously want to get rid of that as well, because it'll make it a stronger plant. The general rule of thumb, because people say, how far can I take it down? You know, just make sure you don't take it down lower than where the growth is coming out of the top, because if you buried the growth from the top, it wouldn't grow. So you can pretty much go anywhere on the stem that you want to, or that's what I've found whenever I've been doing it. So as I'm going through this video, if you feel that you're getting extra value from it, you can do something called Buy Me a Coffee. There will be a link up on the screen and one in the description. Don't feel that you have to, and if you just comment, like and subscribe, I would still be more than grateful. All this is about helping normal people like you and I grow really good vegetables, and the more likes and subscribes I get, the easier it is for me to run my channel and for YouTube to share me more. So if we pop that down into the pot like so, and then just gently hold it, and then I'm just going to gently backfill it. I'm also going to be giving you some tips of what I'm going to be doing with my seedlings once these have been potted on to ensure good growth as well, and get them used to finally going outside. Obviously the weather is still a little bit up and down in the UK, and we could still get frost, so I'm very mindful of being very careful. There we go. So as you can see, I've popped that in, and that already looks a lot better. Not that they looked terrible. I was watching Gardeners World the other day, because I love watching other gardeners as well, especially Monty Don, and his look very similar to mine. So if yours look a little bit spindly, don't be disheartened at all. But quite honestly, unless you're growing it in a commercial environment, they probably will do a little bit. Mine look very similar to this every year, and in fact they've looked much worse some years and they've still done fine. So if I just show you again, so you've got a little bit in the bottom of the pot there, So something for the root to go on. Pat it down gently, but not really hard, and you don't want it to become too firm for the roots. And then just very gently backfill it. Now, like I said, if these were more spindly and they weren't quite so far on, rather than put a little bit in the bottom and then backfill it, the other way, I won't do it with these because mine are too far on to do that, but some of my other seedlings that I'm going to be planting on aren't quite so far on. The other way is with a tool or a knife or something, just to make a hole in the middle like that, and you would gently drop your seedling into it and then gently backfill it that way. The reason I'm not doing it is because these have got perfectly good root systems on it, and they're planting perfectly okay like this. Nothing, you know, nothing to concern myself. So now that it is starting to warm up, we do need to be really mindful of the weather. On a nice warm day, so if it wasn't blowing today, I would have these out on my table, getting them some nice lovely warm sunlight, getting them used to the outside. But because it's so incredibly windy, I've had to pot them up in here. I'm actually going to move a lot of my seedlings into the greenhouse now, because the temperatures in Kent are getting quite mild, but I will be keeping a really good eye on it. The reason I don't want to keep them in my conservatory anymore, or if you've got them on a windowsill, is if you've got a double glazed window, the photosynthesis doesn't work as well, and the plants do struggle. They're more likely to get leggy, they more likely won't grow as well, and they might start to look quite pale and just generally not flourish quite so well. But obviously if you're somewhere where you've got no choice and that's the only place you can put them, then you obviously put them on the windowsill, or like me in the conservatory, and then on a good day I pop them out onto my table or somewhere else in my garden to get a few hours of daylight. You know, one, getting them ready to get acclimatised to being outside, and two, giving them some lovely natural light, which is what they love, and they will grow and flourish much more. And then of course I will need to water these. You don't need to water from the bottom with them now. I hear people saying, oh, you know, what you do need to do is just water them gently. The other thing you can do when you're potting on seedlings is make sure your compost is a little bit more moist, so you can water them perfectly okay from the top now, but just water them very gingerly, you know, because if you water them quite, you know, really harshly, they could flop over. When you first transplanted tomatoes, they do sometimes flop a little while on the first day or two of transplanting them. It's kind of just like a little bit of shock. Don't panic is all I'll say. Chances are they'll bounce back, so certainly don't panic. One of the biggest mistakes I see people doing when they have seedlings is they overwater them. They see them flop over, they panic, and they water them more, and they water them more, and that's detrimental to the plant. There's a whole reason why it's not a good thing. I killed loads of my plants in the early days with love, especially courgettes and squashes, and particularly susceptible to that. And then when someone said to me, you're watering them too much, and I stopped. And yes, you do water them, but you water them when they're dry. You don't keep them constantly sodden. So that's another top tip. You know, I've watered them, and that's enough for now, and I'll just keep an eye on them. The other thing I will do is I will label them. Now, if you've not started off your seeds yet, or you're looking for some more things to sow, you can watch my next video of what to sow in April.